Introducing Mr. Toad. Hiya, mate. Also known as Mr. T, he's our in-house slug control operative, and he's brilliant. He loves it in the greenhouse here, and he gets watered every day, sometimes twice a day, and he hides. There you are, mate. Go on. He hides behind there, and he catches the slugs for us. That's the way to do it. Look at that. Caught red-handed. There he is. Beautiful to look at, mind you. He's looking at me, looking at him, and you can just see how he's hollowed out that flower bud there, and he's still growing strong. Hey mate, you're on YouTube. Yes, you. And herein lies the problem. I've just been investigating where this snail went to, and you can just see him down there. But I looked further in, and there's a little family of them. There's one underneath there, and there's some little kids just over there. They're all just trying to get on like us in the planet and have you know, some food and some drink and some family. And I feel a bit uncomfortable with just wiping them out indiscriminately. What are we going to do with you guys? Slugs and snails, the bane of many a British gardener's life, and I've changed my attitude towards slugs and snails, and so this video is about how we can reduce the damage that slugs and snails cause in our garden without breaking the planet and without damaging wildlife. And there's three things, ABC. A is attitude and action. I've changed my attitude towards slugs and snails, and I've adopted some very basic actions which can actually help prevent rather than try and cure the problem. B is getting a natural balance in the garden. We've forgotten how to work with nature and invite predators to come in and feed on some of these pests, as we call them, slugs and snails. And also B is for barriers. Rather than using pellets, poisons, why not put some barriers around to prevent the slugs getting to your prized plants? And C is controls. The dreaded slug pellets, what can we do? They banned the old slug pellets, thankfully, here in the UK. So there's a new type of slug pellet, but I'm keeping that as the last resort, and there's ways that you can use slug pellets which are much less damaging to the environment. And finally, at the end, we're going to go through a little kind of slideshow of pictures of plants that are slug resistant. So maybe part of the answer is to grow plants that slugs don't like and we love. Join me on the journey. So this is exciting times. I think this is a good move, that we are trying to be much more environmentally conscious and trying to partner with nature and with wildlife and protect wildlife, rather than chucking loads of poisons and pesticides around willy-nilly in the garden. So I'm starting to understand it a little bit better than perhaps I had in the past. Bear in mind that I was brought up in the 60s and 70s in gardening, where using pesticides and fungicides and slug killers and so on was the norm. Everyone did it. So something that I saw on social media does have its uses occasionally. I saw a quote. It was something like, if you haven't got a few aphids in your garden, then you're not contributing towards the ecosystem. And that kind of got me thinking, is that maybe we've tried to achieve almost a lie. We've tried to achieve perfection. We've been shown photographs of flowers and gardens, and the events like the Chelsea Flower Show strive towards absolute perfection. And you would get penalised. You would you'd be downgraded from a gold to a silver gilt if you had a little bit of a brown mark on a leaf or something like that. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe we need to accept that there's going to be a little bit of damage, and try and achieve a natural balance in our gardens. Well, commonly, hedgehogs, these delightful little characters, are kind of mentioned as animals that will feed on slugs and possibly snails, and that may be true, but when I've investigated a bit further and I've spoken to people like hedgehog rescue centres and so on, they actually say that hedgehogs, aren't huge fans of slugs. Can't say I blame them. And although they will eat them, they'd have to be fairly desperate, and there are potential problems with hedgehogs eating too many slugs. They can pick up parasites and things from them. Hedgehogs is one thing. Slow worms, most definitely, and other reptiles will eat slugs. So I'm going to try and find a spot somewhere to put a little bit of corrugated iron down on the floor, because that heats up, and I believe that slow worms love to go and hide underneath there and get nice and hot. Having plenty of leaf piles, compost heaps, lots of plants in your garden for these sorts of predators to go and create habitat where they can bed down for the night, or maybe even build a nest. So it's about having more plants. Something like this euonymus here, which forms a lovely little kind of dome, a little mat of dense foliage, evergreen, great place for animals to go and hide in. Another predator of slugs are certain types of beetles as well will attack slugs. So again, having little log piles, not being afraid of a little kind of litter, little bit of debris on the on your garden, where beetles and insects can make a home. I think it's about having the right natural balance in your garden. And by far the most entertaining form of predator, of course, are wild birds. And we find that by having look at that one there bathing in our little bird bath, by having food and water available for all sorts of wild birds in the garden, that will encourage more predation of the some of the bugs, insects, and maybe even slugs from your garden, and they'll provide you with hours of entertainment too, and pretty bird song as well in the mornings, if you like to be woken up to the sound of bird song, even though it might be 4 o'clock in the morning. Some really good news. There's 2 simple things that you can do that will severely reduce the potential for slugs to attack your plants. Number 1, remember that slugs love to be out and feeding. They're active when the soil is damp overnight. So why not change your watering regime? And if you're going to water your garden, don't water it last thing at night, because that'll leave the ground soaking wet, and that'll just get the slugs up and going during the night. Why not water first thing in the morning when the slugs retreat back underground or underneath the pots, wherever they hide, and that's got the whole of the day then for the plants to absorb all the water, and for the wet patches to dry out before the evening, so that you're not helping to create the perfect feeding environment for slugs. So watering first thing in the morning, try to avoid watering last thing at night. Another fairly simple thing you can do is to try and avoid planting out very small, young, tender, soft plants out into your garden. If you can grow them on a little bit, and I've started doing this, if I buy some plants in seedlings, or grow them as seedlings, I plant them up into a pot or a larger pack and give them another couple of weeks to get larger, to become a bit more robust, a bit more woody, to be chunkier, larger plants. So it's harder for the slugs to completely wipe out the plants for you then. And if it's a young seedling, it needs to kind of climb up and chomp the top out, and that's the end of the plant. If it's a much bushier, maybe three week older plant, which has got maybe 10, 11 leaves on, and it's got a thicker stem, yes, the slug might do some damage, but the plant can kind of grow through it. So that's another simple way of reducing the chance of slug damage. So let's think about some more preventative measures you can take. This has become one of the more popular options here in the UK, which basically it's wool pellets. This is recognised as being an organic way of discouraging slugs. So sheep's wool, and here in Wales we've got a few sheep. It's been kind of processed and then kind of cut and shredded and then reformed into pellets like this, which you can spread over the soil to around a plant as a mulch. I'm not going to do it on this one here, because actually this is one of the slug resistant plants here. That's a begonia. So later on in this video we'll kind of do a little slideshow of some slug resilient plants, and that's one of them that's actually come back from last year. So you put that all the way around your young seedlings if they're a bit vulnerable, and the slugs don't like the feel of kind of crawling over with their soft slimy bellies over this rough surface of these wool pellets. You can see in the past actually we've used a bit of bark around here as well. And bark, because it's got a rough feel to it, can also have this preventative benefit. So that this there are other methods that I've heard, I haven't tried. One of them is making us kind of a garlic solution and watering that over your soil. Apparently that works. I'm not sure if I fancy my garden stinking of garlic, to be honest. Maybe I should give that a go and see how effective it is. But a lot of these water-on ones will only work until you get some rain, and then that washes it away. What else is there? There's some eggshells. A lot of people talk about using things like eggshells. To be honest, when I used eggshells, the slugs were all over them. Maybe I wasn't doing it right. I've heard people talk about using coffee beans. All of these things I've heard about, I haven't tried. This one here has been tried and tested, and of course, if you've got any methods that you've used successfully to repel slugs, please let us know in the comment section here in YouTube. Yet another way of this one is trapping slugs. Really, is to get a slug and snail trap. So the idea here is that apparently you have to get beer, which, let's reach over in case you're not sure. That's what a bottle of beer looks like. Bottle of beer, and you pour some beer. It seems like a terrible waste of good beer to me. Into there, and then you can sink that down into the soil, so that that is at soil level. And the slugs come along, they smell the beer, they think, oh, it's party time, in they go, and then they drown in the beer, apparently, but at least they die happy, I suppose. I might give that a go, but I'm not in a hurry to. This one here, I'm certainly going to give it a go on one of my hosta pots. So we got, there we are, by coincidence, that's on the picture there, that's a hosta in a pot, and I've got one round the side of the house here, which looks beautiful, but does attract the slugs. So you put this copper tape all the way around the rim of the pot, and apparently slugs will not travel over copper tape. They hate the sensation, whatever the reason, they don't travel over it. So that will stop them coming up from the ground and going over the rim of the pot. I'm thinking they could still come up through the bottom of the pot if you've got drainage holes, but it's certainly going to reduce the problem. Okay, now let's have a look at the bad boys of slug controls. Actually, these are not bad boys. These are certified by organic farmers and growers, and there's a lot of talk and a little bit of hot air in the UK at the moment. People saying that all slug pellets are banned. That's not true. Let me just repeat that. That is not true. The old-fashioned slug pellets with metaldehyde have been banned, and the good news is that these organic versions, which contain ferric phosphate, iron phosphate, they're still coloured blue, and if ever you wonder why a slug pellet's blue, it's to deter other wildlife from eating them, which is good. But the good news with these is that if they're eaten by other wildlife, they won't do them any damage. And if wildlife such as birds eat a slug that has been killed by one of these, it won't do them any damage. So this is great news. We've got some sort of slug control that is specifically targeting slugs and snails, and will kill them, but doesn't affect other wildlife in the garden. What else is good about this? So it contains iron phosphate, and both iron and phosphate are natural nutrients for plants. So as these break down in the soil, they're going to release iron and phosphates, which is good for plants. The trick is not to spread them too thickly. So we're just kind of dotting them around the soil here. So there's a light scattering. There we go. So I'm going to use them on my hostas, as well as the slug tape there. And the RHS, highly respected gardening authority here in the UK, did some trials for a number of years and compared the results and the effectiveness of these slug pellets compared to the old metaldehyde, and these guys did really well. It will produce a different result. So with the old slug pellets, you would see kind of slimy slug trails and kind of half-dead slugs kind of in their death throes in your garden. You're less likely to see that, which is good news. I think you're not going to see that sort of evidence of slug death. With these, the slug eats the contents of the pellet and then goes back underground and dies underground in the nest. So yeah, that's just better all round, isn't it? That we're not leaving dead slugs lying around. But in the end, I still see this as a last resort, and maybe to use around very susceptible plants such as hostas. I think we've covered a whole bunch of other stuff that we can do to prevent and reduce the likelihood of slug damage on your plants. I hope these ideas have made sense to you, and we can all have a go at using them. Finally then, to finish this video, thank you for watching it. I'm going to just put up a slideshow of some plants that are considered to be slug resistant, slug resilient, less attractive to slugs. In the end, there's no guarantees, because this is nature and wildlife, and they don't see things black and white and a long list of rules. They do what they do, but through experience, these are plants that other gardeners have found are less attractive to slugs. So you might want to introduce some of these into your garden if you've got a particular slug problem. In the end, look guys, let's just review how we view slugs and snails. They are beautiful creatures and they need to live. Why not just tolerate a little bit of damage, see them as friends with a peculiar diet, and let's see if we can live in harmony with them and still enjoy our gardens. Would love to hear what you think about all this. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your gardens. Bye for now.